I'm very excited to be joined by Connor McKnight, our guest today. We've already waited enough for the interview to export, so let's hit the countdown. CHGO White Sox podcast coming to you live from our CHGO offices here in Studio West in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, my producer, Sarah.
Hi.
The people are mad. We were supposed to start at 4. We're at 4:05. We're very sorry. We had a 23-minute interview to export from Connor McKnight, and it just took a little bit longer than we expected.
I could have started sooner, but you know, it is what it is.
It's a job where you need to have a pointer finger. Okay, there's no thumbs as a producer. It's everyone else's fault. And you didn't do anything wrong. Also, shout out to Baseball Tossed, who says late in doing a countdown SMH. We just have to keep it consistent. All right. Also great to see our pal AJ, who has risen from their casket to join the live show. And I also just scroll up one more, Sarah. Shout out to Matt, who's ass stoned. There's worse fates in the world. Okay, so, hey, no, but maybe. Hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. Very excited to be joined by Connor McKnight of CHSN today. We're not going to waste your time any longer. Connor and I talk for about 23 minutes. There's a wild Jay Zawoski that appears. Here is Connor McKnight. We talk about Tanner McDougal, Noah Schultz, Sam Antonacci, and more. Here's Connor. We are welcomed now by Connor McKnight, the host of Road to the Rate, a CHSN podcast focusing on the minor leagues of the Chicago White Sox. You can also find him on the CHSN broadcast of Chicago White Sox games. Sometimes he even fills in on play-by-play. We like when that happens. What's up, Connor McKnight? How you doing?
Hey, Sean. How are you, man? First time, long time. Appreciate you having me.
I know. I used to produce your shows, and now I'm booking you as a guest, and we just are in the White Sox world, so it's nice to know people, you know?
You are you're a rocket ship through the atmosphere, man. It's been good to listen and nice to see the good things happen to good people.
Hey, fingers crossed. Same to you, and I'm glad that we got a nice little niche here in the White Sox community. You've been a part of it now for 4 years, if you include the ESPN stuff. Now we're 3.
Well, let's see if you include the ESPN stuff and the WLS stuff before that.
Oh, right.
Closer to 8, really, if you think about it. I think I did 3 years, 2 years with Ed, God bless him, God rest him, and DJ, and then came back in 21 with Len and DJ doing pre and post. So that brings us up to 25. So yeah, I'm not gonna continue adding and doing math here on your show and ruining it by doing math live, but yeah, it's a long time.
That's usually why I have a producer. He's really just there to be my human calculator. So I don't blame it. Yeah, and I forgot that you worked there pre WSCR. So you've been in this niche for a long time. All right. So what's it been like to adapt to a TV broadcast though? Because I know it was mostly radio. You talk about Ed, you talk about Len and DJ, but now you're front facing man. How's that been?
Yeah, it's funny. I tell most people. I mean, truly. Working at CHSN has been awesome. It's got startup energy, except everybody who's been doing their job has been doing it at the highest level for the last 15. So that's great. You look at your producer, Chris Withers, and Chris says, "Hey, I think you should do this." And you go, "Great, I'm just going to do that then, because you're brilliant and you've got Emmys on the shelf. So I'll just do those things." And then you watch Brooke do what she does, Brooke Fletcher, who's absolutely brilliant. And then I just try and do what she does. It's been great to have Len and DJ guide me along the way. They're 2 television pros as well. And my friendship, my relationship with them goes way back. And John and Steve are awesome to work with. So the environment is really cool. I tell people it's a little bit like radio and TV is a little bit like the difference between starting and relieving. They're similar skill sets, right? But you can't just relieve one day and then go start the day after unless you're Yoshinobu Yamamoto, which is just absolutely bananas. But most, it takes a lot to kind of get from one area to the next and kind of understand the differences between the two.
Well, yeah, you got a 15-minute radio segment. You can flub a little bit. You got 1 minute to talk about the White Sox. You got to be perfect. So I bet that's been a real fun
Oh man.
practice in the mirror every night.
Yeah, I go back to I have to go back to Dan McNeil telling me to hit a post every once in a while. You know what I mean? And that's like your you get your 60-second hit on TV. And it's like, did I say everything? I have no idea. Is it over? Oh my God, it's over. It's like that quick.
Are you happy you don't have to like wait for the paint it black post anymore for Rolling Stones? You just talking about Shane Smith's slider.
It's nice to just get in and get out and not have to worry about the everything else. That's the other cool thing too is like, everybody in the truck and the team. I mean, that's just everything looks so good on our broadcasts. You just half the time I just point to the graphics and go, look what they made. This is awesome. Look at this. This is so cool.
Right. No, and that home run graphic, that true where you bring in the exploding scoreboard, it's real nice stuff.
Yeah.
No, it's been fun to watch, and it's a growing product too. It's in its early phases, so we'll see how CHSN you guys grow. You guys obviously growing. Are you growing into your role there at CHSN? Now you're hosting a podcast, focusing on the minor leagues of the White Sox. Frequent guest has been Paul Janisch. What's it been like to talk to Paul? And I think Paul does represent a larger thing that the White Sox are doing. Chris Getz, a former player, Barfield, former player, Venable, former player, etc. Janisch fits into that. How do you think that change to former baseball players? I think Gene Watson said we're looking for guys that love baseball. Seem like these guys love baseball. How do you think that's affect the White Sox organization?
I think it's affected in a lot of ways. And I will point out this podcast, it's been a lot of fun to do Road to the Rate. The podcast was Paul's idea. Like, this isn't something that I kind of pitched. It isn't something that, not that I wasn't into it and didn't go into this job, in year one last year thinking, okay, the minor leagues, farm system, I love that stuff. I always have. But this was a Paul Janisch, kind of creation. He wanted to focus on kind of the lives and development side of minor leaguers. And, he and I he's great to talk with when you get a chance, go down in spring training and meet with him. He's just really open about talking about this process, about what it looks like and how it looks different for players. And I think that's what I really wanted to get into is, as Paul and I talked about what this thing could be, is, we've had everybody on from Braden Montgomery to Sam Antonacci to, Shane Murphy and all guys in between. And not everybody's development looks the same. Not everybody's skill sets are the same. We had a guy, Tanner McDougal was on the show at one point. And Tanner go back and listen to it, see if you can find the edit. You probably can't. But at one point we had to cut a little bit of what Tanner said out because Tanner got, how should I say, really emotional about the development, about what he can do and all this stuff. And said some words that, you got to kind of, that's got to go. And I told him afterward, dude, I don't mind you saying what you said. You meant it from the heart. It's very clear that this is what it means to you to take this next step forward, to take the ball for these guys, to win games in Birmingham and all this stuff. And the reason I bring up the story is because he looked at me and goes, yeah, dude, that's what this is about. That's what we're building here. That's what we're making here. Right. And like to have that kind of buy-in, kind of answer the question roundabout way. I think at some points, perhaps it takes guys who have been there and been through the struggle, right? Like Paul Janisch, like Chris Getz, like Will Venable, and so forth and so on, to create the kind of buy-in the White Sox have been looking to create with their minor leaguers. And having talked to a handful of them, you can really feel that buy-in and the presence that creates in their development, right? It's not, these guys aren't rolling up to whatever the weight room looks like in Birmingham going, here's another day at work. It's like, I am going to get better to get to the big leagues. And that's, that probably exists in a lot of other organizations, right? Like, let's not make this something it's not, but it must exist in your organization to get these guys to the big leagues.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think of Will Klein with the Dodgers. That taking the Rick Hahn quote of progression's not linear. He was a Royal, I think, to start the season, then ends up in the Dodger bullpen. And you probably wouldn't tell him, the beginning of the year, you're going to be in a game, 5 or 4 situation, pitching 6 innings out of the bullpen, trying to save the Dodgers' fate in the World Series. So yeah, you never know, what this career for these players will end up looking like. McDougal's an interesting one. How advanced do you think that he is? They protected him on the 40-man. You obviously talked to him about his progression here. 2020 pick in a very small draft, a later pick, but very high spin rates even coming out of high school. It walks and talks like a major leaguer, it sounds like.
Yeah, it does. And I think given the stuff there, there's relief floor set for McDougal, right? You know, let's be honest about what it is. There's always relief risk in every arm, period, end of story. But I think when you want to find these arms and bring these guys into the system, you're going, okay, if this is a reliever, what is the ceiling of that reliever, right? And with McDougal, you could easily see him kind of shaving that pitch mix into two and a half, three pitches, you know, just kind of mixing something for that third pitch to go with fastball curve or fastball breaking ball. And then that becomes, you know, kind of your elite, maybe multiple inning back end stuff. And I think the way the White Sox are thinking about their bullpen going into 26 and the way the world is kind of working now, you know, we for years since you know 2016 when Andrew Miller did what he did for the Cleveland then Indians, now Guardians, out of their bullpen through the playoffs. You know, I think everybody's been going, oh, this guy is this team's Andrew Miller as they try and get to the playoffs, and we've all been saying like, well, yeah, sure, it'd be great to just have peak Andrew Miller in your bullpen. Good luck finding him. But now I think we've gotten to an era where you know, we want to lean on relievers for multiple innings, or at least have multiple guys that can pitch multiple innings. And I think you know Mike Vassell is kind of a point on that data spread on that chart, right? You being able to have some of those guys with good stuff, but maybe some you know, either developmental warts or low K rates like Vassal have, or maybe even higher walk rates, and go, okay, yeah, but he does these three things well, and here's a pocket of six, you know, hitters that he can go get. That makes him more valuable than I don't know, maybe the sum of his parts do. So that's floor for McDougal. I was a little surprised in probably a good way that Grant Taylor was moved into the bullpen as quickly as he was, given you know what he could be as a starter, right? And I know you've talked about that a ton on your show, and we can go over that if you want. But it's well worn ground, right? What are we going to do with Grant Taylor? But all that to say, I think with McDougal, you can kind of look at the progress in a somewhat similar way, right? There's landing areas for him given the stuff. And I think that starts with being a starter for a bit. But Brian Bannister's proven that he's okay with guys taking, you know, their innings out of the bullpen late in their first or second season in the big leagues.
Right. And I don't need to dive too much into Taylor, but I think you're right that probably every single guy in the White Sox, pitching, 13 pitchers or whatever, both rotation and bullpen, they'll probably be able to provide some length, like, maybe outside of their one high leverage guy, but even Taylor, he'll probably be able to go for 2 innings. So, it does seem like the evolution of baseball is just everyone's a failed starter. So if you can give us 6 innings,
Yeah.
thank you, Yoendrys Gomez.
That's the Liam Hendricks thing, right? He's
Right.
like, I'm not a closer, I'm a failed starter. It's like, no, Liam, you're throwing a billion miles an hour and shutting down. Like, just come on, dude. But at the same time, I think that's very true. And I think that also allows you kind of some multiple looks. I mean, it allows that, you know, allows Will Venable to be more comfortable with like, okay, how do we kind of solve these back end stuff? And you know, I wouldn't be surprised if you know maybe not capital C closer, but somebody that can just work the ninth gets added onto this ball club for two reasons, right? Now you've got Grant Taylor able to go after multiple pockets in the sixth or seventh or eighth or whatever, and it's easier to get him multiple inning outings if you know you've got the last three outs covered by another experienced, you know, veteran kind of arm. And I think that allows for a lot more flexibility with Taylor's development and a good White Sox, hopefully better White Sox bullpen than it was last year.
Yeah, and hopefully we see, Taylor, even if it's not the last 3 outs of the game, going up against those high leverage batters like he was
Right.
last year. Even if they're coming up in the seventh or eighth, let's see him against the best of the best. So kind of in that development of pitchers, Schultz and Hagen Smith have kind of seemingly like hit a point where unless they're having a sub-2 ERA, I don't think anyone's going to be impressed with the top 100s prospects dominating AA and AAA. And they really haven't even dominated AA and AAA just yet. But, we're talking about young pitchers and this slow growth. When do you think it will click for either or both of these players?
Yeah, I think, you know, this is going back to your development not linear phrase, right? That we've heard for, you know, the better part of 20 years in this game. And I think it's a good one. It means something. It really does. It's not lip service. And I think, you know, as Noah came up through the minors, let's start with Schultz. there was a lot of hype. There's a lot of questions, right? The guy had barely pitched in high school because of a whole host of different reasons, and arrives in the White Sox minor league system. And you got to remember, this guy is 2021 and 6'10" slash maybe 11. Of this takes longer. It just does. I think of him a little bit like I think of catcher development. Like, it just takes longer to cook, right? I'm a long, lanky guy, nowhere near as tall as Noah Schultz is, but like when I was coming up, and I like if I can get my arms to go in the right direction, reaching for the basketball or like trying to throw, I was like, oh, we did it. Like we're going north south. This is fantastic. Let's just go in the right way. And I think there's some, mechanical issues there that may take longer to sort out, but the stuff is there, and people seem pretty confident about his ability to do that. It was nice to see. You mentioned you didn't see him dominate. I think you could say that Noah Schultz did dominate Double A to this point, and Triple A is kind of that next step.
Mhm.
Environments are what they are. I I know that the White Sox are, um, if not satisfied, then very pleased with the what Hagen Smith was able to show in the last couple of weeks of the Arizona Fall League and into the playoffs with the Barons. Right. I think you, as much as anybody else, understands like here you can have a starter with a high walk rate if X, Y, and Z. And I think Hagen is kind of showing you, all right, he may have the stuff and the capability and the understanding of how to pitch with those XY with that X, Y, and Z and the high walk rate, right? That doesn't mean that has to be that guy forever. I think you look at a guy like Dylan Cease and not comping the things
That's
they
what I was
use
thinking
to
of.
throw, right? But the way he goes about finding his outs when that stuff's not there, and you can go, okay, well, Dylan had figured it out at points, right? Or in starts, right? How to attack that strike zone a little bit better. And I think that's something that you can learn as you go. And maybe those guys, it takes a little while longer. I mean, if you ask the Blue Jays right now, that front office, if you give them truth serum, yeah, all right, can you get Dylan down to I don't know, a league average walk rate? Like, can you do that in a season? I think they'll tell you no. And I think they'll tell you, and furthermore, we don't care.
Yeah, right? No, that's hilarious because it is the same narrative that is surrounding Cease when they traded him about him not being able to walk guys, him having a ton of strikeouts, him being able to make every start of the year, and that's hilarious because some people do compare Hagen to Carlos Rodon because he's the former lefty
Oh, yeah.
of the bunch of the past 10 years. But no, I think your comp of Cease is fair because it's going to be either strikeouts, high walks, or he's not going to allow homers, or it's just going to be like a real ugly outing. But no, yeah, I think Cease is a great comp there. Final guy I want to ask you, Jay Zawoski's creepily watching in the background.
Hi, Jay.
Come on, Jay. We're talking to Connor. Luke Stuckmeyer also
Miss you,
says
buddy.
hi.
There he is. Oh, Luke
Hi.
Stuckmeyer too.
I
Oh,
miss you.
Jay, my heart. Oh, I miss you
Virtual
too,
hug
buddy.
from a
Good to
distance.
see you. Oh man, I love
He's
you.
a
You
father.
need hugs today.
I need all the hugs.
You need
Oh,
all the
God.
hugs. I'm so
Sorry.
my namesake. The second most famous Connor in Chicago. Tough day for him.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
He's not
He's
dead.
not out for the year,
That's-
so that's a plus.
Oh, he's not. Oh, that's fantastic.
No, yeah.
This is
Well, the
breaking
calendar.
news
He's out
right
for
here
the
to
calendar.
me.
The calendar year he's out for, not the season.
And that's only as I recall, only a few weeks left in that calendar year. So
Correct.
that's a good thing. Yeah.
Get your holiday
Good.
shopping done.
Fantastic.
All right. Back to the White Sox. Stop this nonsense.
Yeah,
All right.
come on. No more rekindling with old friends. Let's get to the nitty gritty. Sam Antonacci. I'm not a believer. Convince me.
I love that you use the nitty gritty and Sam Antonacci in the same sentence because that's what it is, right? Um, I think it's a tough one to project, right? Because when you're looking at all contact and when you're looking at the ability to the ability to get hit by pitch, I mean, let's say what it is, right? I mean, that man will step in front of a baseball. He doesn't give a damn. He's just going to get on base for his team. I don't care what it takes. Like we had him on the podcast too, and it's like a laser focused kind of like we're winning baseball games today. It's like, all right, Sam, I hear you. Like they love the guy. And I don't think saying any like left-handed Chase Mydroth is probably fair. And I think White Sox fans, I think a lot of baseball teams have kind of seen the highs and lows of dreaming on a contact-oriented infielder, what that looks like. If you doubt Sam, that is one more person doubting him that will push him to the bit. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like that
Yeah,
that
no,
is who
great.
he is, right? He's like bring on the like. He's got a list of names. He's like, oh, good,
Wonderful.
Sean Anderson. I will take you down in
Well, now I don't
July. And I
want to
think
become a
that's
believer. I just want to, add more
right.
fire to that
So,
flame so he just becomes
fuel
great.
his hatred.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He's. I would say he is the kind of player though that's going to make going to make it impossible for a team to not test him in the major leagues. And given his draft status, given the prospect hype, the age relative to league and all that kind of stuff, like that, then that is a very good success, developmental success story already. And maybe it doesn't need to be more than that. Maybe the test case or the case study, better put, is, hey, look what the White Sox have been able to accomplish with a player profile that looks like this. And if there's utility there at the big league level, then doesn't that say more and better things about other levels of talent throughout the system?
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And the one thing too with Antonacci that maybe he, separates him from the Madrigals or Mydroth is that speed. I think what 47 stolen bags this year in the minors.
Yeah.
Maybe the base running once he's on the base is causing a little bit more havoc and can separate him a little bit. But hey, I'm glad to hate him so he could just have more more haterade to drink.
At your peril, man. At your peril. He is gonna take you down when he finds like it's that kind of dude, and I love it.
If he's an all-star and, I have to face the music, I'll be like, oh well, we have a White Sox all-star.
Right.
I'm not complaining. Connor, fantastic work over at CHSN. Glad to see you're over there. Make sure you're listening to Connor's podcast. I guess Paul Yanish's podcast that Connor
Yeah, it's
hosts.
Paul Yanish's podcast.
It's not your show, but you're on that show.
Not my show, but I'm on that show. Right.
Yeah. So check out Connor. The Road to Rate over on Spotify, iTunes, etc. Make sure that you check out CHSN as well. Appreciate your time so much, Connor. Thank you.
Are we not talking Roch Cholowsky? You've
Oh my
we've
God, I
been
forgot
talking
about
for,
it. Well,
we have. I refuse to leave until we've talked about the number one pick. I won't go.
We had to have a reunion with Jay Zawoski, so we delayed it. All right,
true.
no, you're right. I was watching
true.
Roch Cholowsky highlights, and in a Big Ten tournament game, Roch goes deep to against, I think, Maryland, and there's Connor McKnight on the call.
Yeah, I think I did that one. Indiana. No, it was Illinois. It was Illinois.
It was in Illinois. Okay, Illinois. We'll get the facts right.
First round game.
What do you make of Cholowsky? Because it does seem consensus first overall. I know Chris Getz and Gene Watson will say, we're taking Cholowsky. There's 7 months still until the drafts, et cetera, or plus. But, what do you think of Cholowsky?
Here's I have a good Roch Cholowsky story, and mostly this whole reset on my part was to make you pitch the podcast again when we sign off at the end. So that's most of what I'm doing here. But so I called the Big Ten tournament, and UCLA beat Illinois in the first round. They beat them 8-6. So in the first inning, Cholowsky, I believe, was hitting second, grounded into a fielder's choice. And obviously I had, it's Roch Cholowsky. I went into the game like this is all the conversation. And I looked at our analyst, Jeff Leisure, and Jeff Lacey, sorry. I have Jordan Leisure on my mind. And I looked at Lacey, and he's former Nebraska shortstop and outfielder and, kind of grindy Sam Antonacci sort of thing, right? That's Jeff. And he looks at me and goes, this is 1-1 stuff. And I go, great, that's the conversation through the game if we get into, because you got to plan for a lot of things. Anyway, Cholowsky hits like a absolute missile one-hopper to short in his first at bat. And it's like, hey, look what I found, and fielder's choice, right? He's intentionally walked in his next plate appearance, intentionally walked in the next plate appearance, and then hit by pitch while they're trying to work around him in his fourth plate appearance. Then in his fifth plate appearance. So, Sean, this is an hour plus in between at bats before he's seen anything to hit. Up one, heading into a late, with Illinois on a real run here. They've been playing really good baseball late in the season. Cholowsky takes a 3-1 pitch into left center field, 420, 8-6 UCLA. I mean, yeah, it's to go with all the shortstop that you've heard about. I mean, I don't grade out players. I have not gone to scout school, but you hear 60 grade defense on this guy quite a bit, which, as you know, is potential, all-star kind of gold glove level stuff. The intangibles are solid. The way the team talks about him, the way the coaches talk about him is good. I did get a workout in while I was covering the Big Ten tournament in Omaha, and sure enough, in the the workout room with me were a couple other players and Roch Cholowsky. I happened to go down at the right time, and man, that's a pro ball player workout. I'll tell you that much. Good Lord, I'm just over here with my twos and fives. Like, all right, I'll just walk. Oh my God, what is that? Like it's real. It's real.
Well, and the funny thing too, just listening to him talk, like it kind of has a Sam Antonacci vibe about him, where it's like, I got to prove everyone wrong. I'm like, dude, the consensus 1-1. Who thinks like negatively about you? What are you talking about?
Right. Well, and this is Mike Shirley pointed this out too. I think when he was talking at the winter meetings, that obviously they're not going to say anything one way or the other. That's not what you do 7 months before a draft. But Cholowsky, could have come out of high school as, potentially a second day pick or something like that. I forget, what the format was of the draft when Cholowsky would have come out. But, COVID, and that sets back all sorts of player profiles, and it pushes high schoolers into college and college players back for a fifth or ninth year or whatever it is. And, we are still, I think this plays into when we're talking about some other prospects too, maybe not necessarily anybody we talked about here, but we are still, as a player development industry, dealing with the effects of, maybe not dealing with, but like seeing the effects of COVID and what that had done, and to set back, timelines and whatnot. And Cholowsky's arrival here as this type of player doesn't go to college often. It just doesn't. And there it is, coming out and potentially being 1-1. Now he's got to overcome hitting in the Big Ten, which is a thing. He's not facing SEC pitching every night. There's a showcase, I think, in late February, where he's going to face Tennessee and a couple other, SEC teams and stuff. So I think I would imagine every scout in the business is going to be there. I would imagine Chris Getz has, time booked to go watch the showcase. Why wouldn't you, right? So it's a really exciting player profile, and a lot of things could change come draft time. But is the guy that I've been, kind of hearing about quite a bit heading into that Big Ten tournament, and he did not disappoint.
Yeah, and hopefully we continue to see that. I just also want to see, just for the baseball junkie, a sophomore win the Golden Spikes or whatever it is, baseball player of the year in his sophomore year, and then win in his junior year. Like, I'd love to see that happen, and him just complete the thing that's never been done. Yeah. But Connor, let's get that pitch in one more time. The Road to the Rate, the podcast that you can follow the journey for White Sox minor leaguers from their journey from the minor leagues to the big leagues. Paul Giannis's experience. Make sure you go listen to Connor, and obviously check out the CHSN broadcast. Great to catch up with you and to reunite you with your former producer, Jay Zawoski.
Please tell Jay I said hello. Former producer and spiritual guide, Jay Zawoski. Yes. Really, for really talking about it, honestly.
Former
thank
spiritual
you, Sean.
guide.
Appreciate you.
I thought he was still doing the spiritual stuff.
It's tough from a distance, right? I mean, I can feel the blessing and the power and the whatnot, but it's just, it's good to see him in the flesh. It's nice.
Yeah. We want to let you know about our friends over at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary with our friends over at Bet365. It's a huge week. The Chicago team is taking on the Green Bay team. You don't need a boost. You don't need a special reason to gamble. It is the biggest game of the season for our team, and they do have NFL offers all throughout the season. Tonight's a Monday night game. They have a 50% super profit boost token on same game parlay. So if you want to enjoy the Miami and Pittsburgh game tonight in a very special way, take advantage of the 50% super profit boost token. But we are all leading up to Saturday, the big game that really will decide the NFC North. Make sure you double your winnings on parlays with Bet365, 100% parlay boost. Download the app and use code CHGO365 when you sign up. Again, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use the code CHGO365 when you sign up. Deposit $10, place a bet of $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary with the friends over at Bet365. Must be 21 plus. If you or someone who has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER. We also want to let you know about our friends over at Four Seasons. For all the right reasons, call 866-4-SEASONS. Visit their website at fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. But if you have a plumbing emergency, call Four Seasons. If you have an electrical emergency, call Four Seasons. If you need a new hot water tank installed today, call Four Seasons. Now is the time to schedule your Four Seasons furnace tune-up. If you're thinking about a whole home generator, they have you covered. At Four Seasons, they guarantee same-day installation for all your heating, cooling, plumbing, electrical, and generator needs with no extra charges for nights, weekends, or holidays. So check out the friends over at Four Seasons. Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric has been serving Chicagoland for over 50 years. Your trusted local experts are Four Seasons Heating, Cooling, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. Visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. 866-4Seasons. We are welcomed now by Connor McKnight, the host of Road. We already played that. Welcome back to the CHGO White Sox podcast.
Welcome back.
Thank you to Connor McKnight for joining me earlier on the show and for providing all of his insight. Great to finally talk to Connor. I was able to see him when they introduced Will Venable, but first time he was on the show. So glad that we were able to do that. He's been working the White Sox 8 of the past 13 years or something like that with his stint over at WSCR in between. So hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. Make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. I do have to issue an apology. It's a very, very important apology. I don't like when people get pronunciations wrong. I like to correct people if they have pronunciations wrong. I am dumb. For about 3 shows, and even in that interview, was calling him Roch, which is not correct. I, for some reason, didn't think it was hard K at the end. I just thought it was how it was spelled. Also, you're listening to somebody that in the 2nd or 3rd grade failed phonics, so it's not surprising I don't know how to read. Roch. It's Roch. Roch Cholowsky. That's why it was rock bottom. That's why Baseball Toss is saying #rock hard, because it's Roch, not Roch. I thought it was Roch. Thought I heard Roch a couple times, but I was just really trying to hear Roch and not hearing rock. So, yeah, Roch Cholowsky, which is, again, very funny. Not a lot of guys named Roch. There's Rock Hudson.
There's
That's about it.
The Rock.
There's, right, and his name
Dwayne Johnson.
Is Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
I'm calling Roch Daniel The Roch Cholowsky.
Can I side note real quick?
What's up?
Have you done your show in all Spanish yet?
No, because we didn't hit the...
Oh, you didn't hit
the thing.
it?
Yeah, we
I've
had
been
the
waiting for that.
We had the $100 special guest,
Okay.
who is Gene Watson, and that was fantastic to have that on the Rule 5 draft. If you haven't watched that, go back to Gene. I think it was our last episode. And then we haven't done naming the 50 random White Sox.
Okay, I was
Because
wondering.
I want to make it bigger than that. 50 is
Right.
easy. I could do 50 right now, and it could be all relievers.
I was gonna say we can really focus on your flashcards for that show then, and make sure everything's
Yeah.
if we do it in Spanish. But you don't have to do that. So
No,
never mind.
I don't have to do Spanish. I could say hola, and that's about it. But yeah, no, his full name is Daniel Roch Cholowsky. So you could do Daniel The Roch Cholowsky, like Dwayne The Rock Johnson. All right. Thank you again to Connor. Make sure you're following him at C1 McKnight, or make sure you're listening to the Paul Yanish podcast, the Road to the Rate. Also, CHSN. I think you do chsn.com/podcast if you want to try a 7-day free trial of our friends over at CHSN, the home of the White Sox, Blackhawks, and Bulls. None of this just Blackhawks and Bulls stuff. Come on, let's include all 3 teams. But some news happened in my world. Some pretty tragic news happened in my world today. Josh Bell and the Minnesota Twins are reportedly in agreement on a 1-year deal. This broke around 9:30. Can't lie, it ruined my breakfast. Couldn't finish my toast. Didn't finish my egg. Obviously very easy to finish bacon. But couldn't really stomach finishing my breakfast because Josh Bell is now a Minnesota Twin. The thing, too, that stings about this was I was thinking Josh Bell would sign with the White Sox for a 1-year, $8 million deal. And on Twitter, came out it was a 1-year, $7 million deal. And then Bobby Nightingale, not Bob Nightingale, but Bobby Nightingale, per the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, said that the salary for 2026 will be $5.5 million. He'll also receive a $250,000 signing bonus, and there's a $1.25 million buyout on the mutual option. That's a good deal. That's a deal that I would have been thrilled if the White Sox signed. I was ready to overpay Josh Bell. Some people are saying, Chris Getz is sleeping. I don't know what's going on, so I can't say that he is. He's obviously fielding phone calls and hanging up phone calls from Craig Breslow and the Boston Red Sox, who are panic calling about Kyle Teal. But for the main part, I don't know if they're sleeping. It does seem like they have interest in O'Hearn. Baseball Toss is saying, I'm happy we didn't sign Josh Bell. Give me O'Hearn. Sign anybody at this point. If it's Josh Bell, if it's O'Hearn, who cares? They're better than Lenyn Sosa. They give a decent floor. I think, though, that they've been in talk with O'Hearn. I mean, we've heard for about a month now there's interest with O'Hearn. So they must not have been talking to Josh Bell if the Twins are able to sneak in with, I think, a fairly low offer of $5.5 million with 1.25 on a buyout. But also, if O'Hearn comes out and signs a fairly cheap deal, I think we'll all be fairly surprised. I think it would be fairly shocking as well if the White Sox aren't in it. Maybe they get outbid, but I think at the end of the day, we'll see their interest in O'Hearn play out. I think they're trying, for the better lack of words. Like, I don't think that Chris Getz is truly just sitting there on his hands. I do think, do not show that. I think that they're working with people right now. We heard their interest in Fairbanks, Myers, etc. But I would like to see a move sooner rather than later, because right now the free agent options are not looking pretty. You could go out and sign Kazuma Okamoto, who I would be thrilled with, a Japanese player who's 30 years old. Did hit a homer in the World Baseball Classic, but I did see today that it was off Kyle Freeland. So is it really a major league player? There's still Luis Arraez out there. That would make me throw up. O'Hearn, obviously a viable option. Hopefully they can make a deal with him happen. Goldschmidt would be pretty revolting at 38 years old. Nathaniel Lowe, I wouldn't hate. He wasn't good in 2025, but he's at least a lefty who's 30. Rhys Hoskins provides pop. I wouldn't be against that. He's worth around $8 million. If Bell's getting, 5.5, I think that Hoskins should be around that number as well. And then you get into the Rowdy Tellez and Carlos Santana's of the world, and it gets really ugly. There's a huge fall off at first base, and it's really O'Hearn or Lenyn Sosa. And I can't stomach Lenyn Sosa at first base. I'd rather Lenyn Sosa than Luis Arraez, but I don't know if I'd rather Carlos Santana on a minor league invite over Lenyn Sosa. I don't know if Sosa's going to work out at first base. We'll talk a little bit more about Sosa. I found some numbers yesterday while I was digging into Lenyn Sosa in the first base issue. But finally on Bell, this is from Foolish Baseball. The Twins love a 30 or old first baseman on a one-year deal, doing the Lord's work for the rest of the league by figuring out who is or isn't washed yet. And he goes on to say the rest of the league is so hesitant to lock in veteran hitters without positional flexibility that the Twins are basically sustaining a whole economy of one specific type of dudes. I think it's nice, but also understand that maybe the AAA 25-year-old is cheaper with upside. That's the thing with the White Sox, is they don't have a 25-year-old with upside. Like, they're bringing back Tim Elko to be the Charlotte first baseman. There really isn't an upside play here. Maybe it's Lenyn Sosa, maybe the 25-year-old that's more of a quad A player than a AAA player. He is cheaper with more upside, but I think that you just really get a decent floor with a veteran. I think that you at least see 30 homer potential from Bell, but he at least can hit that floor of what Lenyn hit last year of 22. That's what they both hit last year. I think it's easier for Bell to hit that. And then finally, Foolish Baseball says you wouldn't want to block pre-2025 Jonathan Aranda with a Josh Bell, but a lot of that time the guy turns out to be more of a Luken Baker, David VR, Sean Bouchard player that can't break through, in which case you should have just signed Josh Bell instead of Tim Elko, instead of Lenyn Sosa, maybe Josh Bell or O'Hearn. We'll see what happens with that. We have to take a break. We do see some comments. We'll get to them in a sec. There's a really bizarre trade there from Baseball Tossed. We're going to take a break here on the CHGO White Sox podcast, and we'll get to it right after the break. We want to let you know about our friends over at Eye on the Ball. They are true friends. Dave and Chris were here in the CHGO studios not too long ago, and we got to learn more about Eye on the Ball. Athletes, here's a question. If you're serious about leveling up your game... Oh, wait. That wasn't a question. I just said a statement. We want to let you know about our friends over at Eye on the Ball. Dave and Chris, who were just recently at the CHGO studios, started this wonderful company. And if you are an athlete, here's a question. Are you serious about leveling up your game? Because the right coach can change everything. And now finding one is easy with Eye on the Ball. I just saw Tom Brady talking about how the physical developments of athletes has never been better, but it's more about the mental development. So, hey, if you need help with the physical or maybe even the mental, check out eyeontheball.com. It doesn't matter if you're a kid starting out or competing at the top level. You could sign up totally free at eyeontheball.net. Just create your profile, search through your coaches in your sport, and connect directly with the one that's right for you. From soccer to swimming, baseball to basketball, you name it, the coaches are there. So what are you waiting for? Your future coach could be one click away. Jump on today at eyeontheball.net. That's eyeontheball.net. Find your coach and take your game to the next level. We also want to let you know about our friends over at Ray Chevy. 'Tis the season for savings at Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake, and with hot deals all month long during their year-end sales event, stop in so you don't miss out on their $0 down and 0 payments until March on all new Chevrolet models, or check out their selection of over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. With one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories, you'll be sure to find the perfect vehicle for you, and as one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, they're able to keep their prices competitive, so you'll know you'll get a great deal, and you'll know you'll get a great deal with Race Price Promise. The price you see is the price you pay. You see a price online, that's the price you pay. You see a price on the car in the lot, that's the price you pay. They make it easy. So go see for yourself. Visit our partner at their convenient location right now on Route 12 in Fox Lake. And don't miss out on their year-end sales event going on all month long for $0 down and 0 payments until March on all new Chevrolet models. Shop Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive. Welcome back to the CHGO White Sox podcast. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us in the chat. Make sure you're hitting the thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribed to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. Even though I might bash on some trade proposals in the comments, it is all in good fun because we're talking about the White Sox. I'm a fan just like you guys. A trade thought is just more of a conversation starter than anything.
Man of the people.
Huh?
Man of the people.
Man of the people, for sure. We try to be. Tommaso saying, would you trade Teal for Duran and Abreu? The thing is with Boston, they have 4 outfielders, right? So they're not going to trade 2 of the 4. So it's either going to be Duran or Abreu. I guess I'd take Wilyer over Duran, but I don't trade Teal. If we're trading a catcher, trade Corey Lee. If we're trading a catcher that's not Kyle Teal, trade Edgar Caro. I'd like to keep Teal and Caro, but I would not do Teal for Duran and Abreu. And then Baseball Toss saying Shane Smith and Lenyn Sosa for Wilyer Abreu and a prospect. That prospect would have to be really, really good. Because if you're just saying, hey, Wilyer Abreu for Lenyn Sosa, Abreu is a much, 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 much better player than Lenyn Sosa. But I think they're on like a similar-ish timelines when it comes to contracts. The thing is about Shane Smith is being a Rule 5 pick, that wasn't a control year. So the White Sox get full control, all 6 years of Shane Smith now. He's in his first year of pre-arb. Next year will be his second year of pre-arb. The year after that will be his third year of pre-arb. Then he'll hit ARB1 in 2028. ARB2 will be in 2029, and that's the year Abreu's hitting free agency, and you still have 2 more years of control with Shane Smith. So Shane Smith absolutely is a piece right now that they are refining to trade, but it's not this year. Shane Smith is going to be thrown out for a full year again with the White Sox. And once he gets close to those ARB years or even in those ARB years, that's when they'd look to move on from a Shane Smith when he is approaching his 30-year-old season rather than right now when he's young, controllable, and fully healthy. So I don't see a reason to acquire Wilyer Abreu either. The White Sox don't have any pitching right now. They still need another pitching spot, and then you're pretty much trading your best pitcher. Doesn't help you. And Abreu's not here for long term. So I don't see the point of trading Lenyn Sosa, or I see the point in trading Lenyn Sosa. We can get rid of Lenyn Sosa. I don't see the point in trading Shane Smith right now. So it's not it's a thought. I think Grumpy Pigs and Friends is right, though. It's a little bit ridiculous because Shane, if things work out well for him, it won't be a Crochet level return because of Crochet's age, but it could maybe be Cease-ish. I don't know if Cease or Smith will ever be like top 2 Cy Young finisher like Cease was, but outside of that season, and really outside of that second half in 2023, Cease was a fine pitcher. And that's again like the real reason why he's getting 7 years, $210 is because of his age and because of his ability to start all these games with the strikeouts. But there's some flaws in Dylan Cease's game. Shane Smith could strike out guys. He's showed the ability to go deep into games. If he could stay healthy, that's like the big knock on wood thing for him. But he's got several years to show that and build up that resume as a potential trade piece. And that's just not right now. Right now, they need Shane Smith making starts for them, 32 starts each and every year. So no, I mean that's probably their best piece right now, trade piece. I think at some point it will be one of the shortstops, whether it's Roch, Carlson, Bonham, or whoever. One of those guys will be traded, I feel like. I don't think you're going to see an infield of all 4 of those made up. But right now, the best trade piece is Shane Smith. I think it will become one of those first-round shortstops at some point. Maybe it's even Colson. They don't want to sign him to a long-term deal. But, yeah, I think that's a little low on Shane Smith just because Abreu doesn't seem to be next level. I think he's already 27. Smith's 26, but it's a lot different when you're a pitcher compared to batter. Those years, pitcher years versus hitter years, it's like cat versus dog years. I don't know the equation. I don't know the difference, but they're different. All right. I wouldn't go and move on from Shane Smith. We're already at 45 minutes rambling. So let's zone in real quick. With Minnesota signing Josh Bell, that leaves the Sox with 7 spots left at around $61 million currently with the 19 players on the roster. That's Caro, Mydroth, Montgomery, Vargas, Benintendi, Robert, Teal, Sosa, Baldwin, Pereira, Smith, Martin, Burke, Alberto, Paez, Vasso, Leisure, and Taylor. So that gives you 3 more relief spots to fill, another starter spot to fill. First base, I still have open because I have Vargas at third. That can easily switch the positions that they play. I have right field open. Right now, I have Teal as designated hitter. We've heard mostly that Benintendi will be the designated hitter, but we'll have to see. And then Sosa, Baldwin, Pereira on the bench. But 7 spots, $61 million currently put towards the 19 players on the team. If they're going to spend $85 million, and that's the projection that Josh Nelson put on, they have around $24 million left to spend. That's around $3.4 million per player. If they're going to spend around $80 million, there's like $19 million left to spend. That's around $2.7 million per player. And if they're going to spend around $75 million, they have about $14 million to play with about $2 million going per player. However, I think 2 of those spots will be filled up by minimum salary guys. And let's just use Jonathan Cannon and Wiekelman Gonzalez as examples, because both of those guys I could see making the roster, both make minimum salary. If those 2 players were added, then you can add for $22.4 million if you subtract the $820K from Cannon and Wiekelman's salaries. You can add 5 players for about $4.5 million per player. If you are using around $80 million, you got like 17.4 to play with, which is around $3.5 million per player. And if you're going around $75 million for their budget, it gives you about $12.4 million left with $2.5 million per player. So I think closer isn't out of the option. I just think Fairbanks is a lot. Because if you're giving Fairbanks, I think the number's $8 million is let's just give him 9. So if you give him 9, you give Robert 20, and you give Benintendi 17, that's $46 million. And if you're spending around $85 million, I mean, that's about half your budget on 3 players alone. It does not make sense to allocate your money like that. In my mind, if you're the White Sox, hey, maybe you really need a guy for the 9th inning, but a lot of that just seems contrived. A lot of that seems like BS. I know the White Sox were terrible in 1-run games last year. I know they were terrible in 2-run games last year. An $8 million closer is not going to fix your bullpen. Spread out that $8 million over like 16 players, and then maybe you'll have a fresh arm for every single game. Obviously, not achievable, but I hope you get my point. Final thing. We'll talk more about Robert tomorrow. I don't think his trade market's playing out exactly how anyone wants it. If you're the White Sox, it does seem like it's the same stuff that we've heard. The Phillies are interested. Well, they were more interested at the trade deadline. I don't know if they're actually interested now. The Mets are interested only if money is getting eaten. Well, Jerry Reinsdorf, the last team he's going to eat money for is Steve Cohen and the Mets. The Pirates are interested. Sure. So I'm not really buying into trade talks for Robert right now. The final thing we'll talk about it more tomorrow. Final thing I want to talk about was the Hagen-Smith-Cease comparisons that Connor and I brought up. A little bit different, but Hagen in 2025 in AA, 75 and 2/3 innings pitched, 5 home runs, 56 walks, 108 Ks. Cease in 2018 in AA, 52 and 1/3 innings pitched, so less innings pitched, 3 homers allowed compared to Hagen's 5. Again, about 23 innings separating them. 22 walks for Cease compared to Hagen's 56. So 34 walk difference there. And then 108 strikeouts for Hagen, 78 for Cease. And that's just a very healthy discrepancy there for Cease. 78 Ks to 22 strikeouts. That's the one thing that Hagen really hasn't been able to show. And he did show it at the back half, like Connor brought up, near the playoffs for Birmingham. So if you are losing hope a little bit on Hagen Smith, let's see what 2026 can bring. And I'm with Connor. I think 11 players in Major League history have been 6'11 or higher that have taken the mound. It's very hard to do. It's very tough to get your limbs in a straight line. And I think for the most part, Noah Schultz has that. There's injuries that he's ran into, and there's clear pitching grips that they're working on. At the end of the day, though, he seems extremely polished for a unicorn of a player being 6'10", 6'11". So I still have extreme excitement and hope for Noah Schultz. Tempered on Hagen Smith, but I do still think that he could be an MLB starter. And we just got to wait for those guys to join the team. Hope you enjoyed the interview with Connor. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. Make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. Appreciate Tommaso, Grumpy Pig and Friends, Colt, Baseball Tossed, etc., AJ for hanging out with us in the chat. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you to Sarah for producing the show. We'll see you then. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.